afternoon, everyone. So good to have you here. My name is Carl Legiri, and I'm a member of the Camden County College Foundation Board. And we're co-sponsoring this with Jim Kanonika's office. And I want to thank him right now for putting this together. We're very, very hopeful that this will be a very useful exercise for you, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come and find out about this. Let me just briefly tell you why we're doing this and what our goals are and our hopes are. And then I'm going to ask Larry Nespoli, who is the Executive Director of the New Jersey Council of County Colleges, who came from Trenton today to be part of this as well. He'll welcome you and also just make a few remarks. And then I'll introduce our speaker, Michelle, who is the real expert, the star of the show for today, too. The person who can tell you about that magic question of how do we take advantage of the programs that are actually in front of us. And that's really what I really just wanted to say to you. The reason we're doing this is because, as you know, this is a wonderful time for community colleges. They're part of the national conversation now, and that wasn't always the case. So now that they're part of the national conversation, people are beginning to appreciate the role of community colleges and not just for the economy of it, but for the wonderful programs and the richness of the student body itself, too. So we really congratulate you on making such a smart choice. And the other big question looming out there is, how do we make college affordable so that people can finish? And our country needs more people with completed degrees, whether it's a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, or a specialized program that includes some sort of professional aspect to it. This is all to everyone's benefit, too. So we're really happy that we can be a part of the puzzle here. We know that there are programs like the Pell Grant, and there are supports that try to encourage people, but not everyone knows about the American Opportunity Tax Credit. Or they know about it and they find that applying for it could be overwhelming. It just sounds so complicated to another form, another tax piece. And that's why our speaker today is going to be able to simplify that so that perhaps you may actually already you probably already qualify for this benefit that will help cover most, if not all, of a college tuition. When you think about a $3,500 annual tuition, and $2,500 of it can be part of the tax credit. Right? That's a wonderful thing, and we wish this room were filled 3 times with people who could take advantage of this too. But before I get too far into it, please let me introduce Larry Nespoli, as I said, the Executive Director for New Jersey Council of County Colleges. Welcome.
Okay, thanks, Carl, and welcome everyone. I won't take but a minute of your time because we want to get to the reason that you're here, to hear from Michelle. But thank you, Jim. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Carl. Carl's a volunteer. You know, he hatched this idea, and we got to know each other. And he said, "Larry, I'd like to volunteer." He's a busy guy, you know, working across the river from
Across the river,
time in DC. He travels extensively. So for him to say, "I want to give my time to see if I can make something happen here." And so, why am I here? I head up this the state organization for all 19 community colleges in New Jersey. How many students do you think we have right now in New Jersey? 19 community colleges, 70-some campuses. So you want to guess? What did you guess? Somebody take a guess. Put you on the spot. Pretty close. 450, about 400,000, a little more than that. It's a tremendous success story, and the cornerstone of the community college mission for years has always been affordability. And I don't know who, it was Jen, maybe all 3 of you got together, and I love this notion that I think I read on an email. You know, they're heads up, there might be a scholarship hiding within your tax return, you know. And this, Michelle's gonna make this, I know, simply understood, but for most of us, you know, coming up on April 15th, it's not something we get excited about, you know, filing our taxes. That's why we have good friends like Michelle that explain it in our personal lives, and here today we'll do that. But we all know about, how many of you know about the Pell program, the federal level, and TAG at the state level? Well, this is in that same space, and it's not well utilized. And I'm here because I want to, like you, listen and tell the other 18 about this. You know, I think we should be doing sessions like this at every one of the 19. So you are kind of the guinea pig, so to speak, the pilot test of this. And I wanted to be here to say thank you. I come bearing gifts at a second. I'll close in a second with this. Don't get too excited. No. So I wanted to be here to thank you. I didn't come down because I enjoy sitting on 295 and 42. I've been, Jim, I've been here a number of years in this state, and they were working on it the day I arrived, and they're still working on it. So at that. Gee, well, but if you like this lapel pin, you see them on them? These are blue. That's New Jersey's colors. You may not know that, the yellow and the blue. And so I'm going to send this around. Take, I have some more there. Take one or a couple, and it says New Jersey's community colleges. Go. So I'll do it here and pass it around. And with that said, thank you and
Thank you, Larry. I also wanted to acknowledge Felicia Bryant, who is the head of financial aid, is here too. So this is a full court press. Now let me get to our very generous and knowledgeable speaker, Michelle Gasarowski, and she's with Bowman and Company. Bowman and Company, as you know, is a big public accounting firm that works with a lot of the municipalities in the area, and she specializes in health plans and managed care plans for them, but she does the whole range of tax specialties. So she's here to again walk us through this process. So Michelle's title there is she's a senior manager. She's been with Bowman for 15 years. She's also very civically engaged too as well. And she's with the Tri-State Human Resources Management Association, the Voorhees Business Association, the American Heart Association, and also Girls on the Run, where she coaches and is one member of the board of directors for that organization too. So without further ado, Michelle, welcome.
Thank you very much. So I briefly handed out some handouts to everyone to see your faces and hand everything out to you. So today what I'm here to talk about, American Opportunity Credit and the Earned Income Tax Credit. I don't want to explain how to do a tax return or how to prepare these forms, because I know if I said that, everyone would just get up and walk right out, because it's not exciting, you're right. But thank you for getting me out of the office. It's a beautiful day, and I got to come out twice, so I wasn't stuck into returns all day. So I'm more than glad to be here and chat about this with us. So I asked a couple people before when we were all filling in, who has filed a return already? It's great, people are over 15, good. Okay, so for those of you who haven't, you learn a little bit more. And if you did file, that's what an amended return is for. If you find out something tonight that you're like, oh, great. So you can amend returns too. So the American Opportunity Credit. The credit itself is $2,500 maximum per student. Okay, so if a family has more than one student in college on a return, you can utilize this credit more than once on one return in 1 year. The filing threshold for married filing jointly is $180,000. So if your income as a family is over that, you phase out of the credit. Single, it's $90,000. So they're the thresholds that you have to keep in mind if you're filing jointly. So when we talk about a credit being refundable versus non-refundable, refundable credit means if you have a tax liability, and we're just going to say it's $1,000 at this point, okay? You have a credit that's $2,500. You apply the credit, you have $1,500 left. Refundable is you actually get that $1,500. So you didn't pay it in, but you're actually getting it back. So refundable credits are the way to go. They're the ones to look for, okay? So that's how this credit works. 40% of this credit is refundable. So that's $1,000. So $1,500 of this credit will get applied to your tax bill. And if you bring it down to zero, you're still going to get the other $1,000 back. So that's how this works. You can use this for 4 years. So what I spoke about this afternoon, and I just want to make sure I continue to tell everyone this, is if you have a preparer do your return, okay, and they're new to you. So you switched accountants this year, or maybe you decided this year that, hey, there's some credits out there I'm not comfortable with, have someone prepare my return. You have to make sure that you let them know if you've used this credit or any other education credits in the past. Okay, for yourself or your dependents, whoever may be on the return. So this can only be used 4 times. If you use it the 5th time by accident, or you don't tell your accountant, or they don't ask, the IRS will just write you a letter and say, hey, sorry, I've already used it 4 times. So make sure that you know that, because nobody really wants any correspondence from the IRS in the mail. So keep that in mind. 4 times we can only use the credit. The student must be pursuing a degree and a program leading to a degree or another recognized educational credential. So at the community college level, this is the right program that you'll be able to utilize the credit. If it's a trade school or some other type of technical school, if you're not clear on whether that's the right to use the credit, ask the school. Someone in the financial aid office, they'll know. They may have already sent information out to people, they'll definitely know. There's a Form 1098-T. Who's got it so far? We're all students here, so everyone has it. So did everyone have it? Yeah? No? Okay. So what I learned this afternoon from the school is if you sign up to receive it electronically, they will email it to you or give you instructions to download it electronically. If you didn't sign up to do that, they'll mail it to you. Okay? So if you're not sure if you had it already, that's what I learned today about Cambridge College. Many colleges and universities, the student has to log on to get the 1098. So as a tax preparer, there's plenty of times where I'm calling the parents saying, your son or daughter has to sign on and get this 1098 because we don't have it in the information. And I do suspect that there are some parents and children and students in here together. So the student has to be a dependent on the return in which the credit is taken. So once in a while, you'll find that mom and dad will come in to have their return prepared. And then they'll say, oh, my son or daughter, they already prepared their return. Oh, did they? Because lots of times, they'll just take themselves as a dependent. They'll do the calculation and they'll see, they get back more as a refund and they'll do the return themselves and claim themselves as a dependent. Well, that just knocked mom and dad out of the credit. And the student didn't know to take the credit. So keep that in mind as returns are being prepared, especially if son or daughter has a less complicated returns. Lots of times they'll just do them themselves. So keep those things in mind, okay? This credit I consider a little bit flexible. So not only can you use it for tuition and books, you can use it for other expenses that you need for your education, okay? So typically with a lot of these education credits, it can only be used for fees and materials that are being paid to the university. This credit is a little bit, I would say, looser than that, and you can use it for other expenses as well, okay? So as long as the materials are needed as a requirement for the education. So that kind of leaves it to be a little bit more flexible. What it can't be used for, and I did have those items on here, room and board, transportation, insurance, medical expenses. Just so have that out there so that we know, okay? One other thing I just have to mention about this credit, and like I said this afternoon, this isn't a question that I particularly care to ask my clients, but as of the end of the tax year, so as of the end of 2015, the student cannot be convicted of a felony of distributing or possessing a controlled substance. So, not that you like to ask your clients these questions, many of your clients are long-term clients where you know their families for years, still not something I would know. That if somebody asks you that question while you're having a return prepared, take no offense. There's a question on the form, everyone has copies of the forms, it's on there. Were you convicted or were you not? If there was a conviction or an issue, there's another credit, lifetime learning credit, that may be able to be utilized because there's no restrictions there. So that's out there, just let you know about that one. So the next page and the next credit that I was asked to speak about, the earned income tax credit. Just going to start off by saying with this particular credit, there's a lot of fraud out there. The IRS is very particular with preparers. So preparers are very concerned about penalties. We can get penalties ourselves. So there's preparer penalties if there's any really fraudulent activity with this particular credit. So you may have a preparer asking questions about the children that are being claimed on the return. Like I said, if it's a client that I've known for years and I knew that their children were born a couple years ago, I know, I've seen them for years. If it's a new tax preparer, they're probably going to ask more questions about these types of things. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're actually going to someone to have your return prepared. So to qualify for the earned income tax credit, you have to have earned income, right? So earned income, wages, tips, anything that's taxable typically is earned income. What's not taxable, and when I say anything that's taxable employee money, right? What's not taxable, retirement income, interest and dividends, they're not taxable. Social Security, unemployment, alimony, child support, those things are not considered earned income. Certain circumstances, long-term disability payments may be considered earned. So keep those in mind when you're looking at these credits. One of the best resources out there, irs.gov, ton of information. And I was explaining this afternoon how a lot of people say, oh, I just Googled it. You know, I just Googled, I was looking for a tax question and I just Googled it. Please, when you Google those things, say comma IRS. That will bring you up with more legitimate quality information as opposed to just anything that's out there on Google, okay? So on the IRS website, definitions of everything. So if you're not sure something's considered earned versus not for a particular credit, the website is very, very helpful. So for filing status for the earned income credit, the only thing you can't be is married filing separately. You can be single, married jointly, head of household, widowed, they're all fine. You also need, everyone has to have a social security number that's valid for employment. That's the term that the IRS uses. What it means is a social security number, not an adoption ID number. There's also something called an individual taxpayer ID number that's assigned to more or less non-resident aliens that are employed. It has to be a social security number, okay? If by chance it's used, it will get kicked back if it's not a valid social security number, okay? So the maximum credit, refundable credit, this is 100% refundable. So even if no tax was paid in, if you qualify, you can still get back over $6,000. So you can see why the IRS is very particular, and there's a lot of due diligence on the preparer's part. There's a lot of checklists that we have to fill out that never get turned in with a return, but we have to maintain them on file. Okay. Qualifying child is the next item on the earned income tax credit. Now, 0, 1, 2, 3, or more children is the different items on here. So the relationship for a qualifying child, son, daughter, adopted children, foster children, stepchildren, up to the age of 19. If they're between 19 and 24, must be a full-time student. Okay. Talking about foster children, they have to be placed in your home by a recognized agency. So whether that's a state agency or adoption agency, something like that, that's what really qualifies for the foster children, okay? If you're going to have your return prepared, some documents that the accountant may ask for, or that you might want to just show up with and save yourself a lot of time. A new accountant may ask for a driver's license. In this particular year for electronic filing with the IRS, in order to cut down on a lot of the fraud that's happening, as a preparer, we can enter in your driver's license, and then the IRS can match it up as opposed to, we all hear about Social Security numbers being stolen and things like that. Still has your Social Security number on the return, but this is just an extra layer of security. So the preparers may be asking for your driver's license, not unusual. Social Security card, birth certificates they may ask for. If there is an earned income tax situation, we need to verify that the children actually live at your address and have lived there for half a year. So many times they'll ask for a student record from school, or maybe a medical bill, something that we can verify that the address of the person, qualifying child lives there, okay? So keep those things in mind. Bank account numbers, routing numbers. If you're getting a refund, it is faster if you direct deposit it. So find an account to direct deposit it into, and you'll put your money faster. If you are going to a preparer, always bring at least the last 2 years of tax returns so the preparer can kind of get an idea of where things stand and what your history has looked like. Also, the newer thing, the last 2 years, the Form 1095 for healthcare. So a newer preparer, or any preparer really this year, will need that. So it's Form 1095, and if you were a member of a group health plan, if you bought your health insurance on the marketplace or elsewhere, if you were a dependent on someone's health insurance, there'll be a 1095 form issued to the provider, from the providers, okay? They'll need them this year for your tax returns too. Do we have any questions so far about either credit? Kind of individual questions about my tax return are hard to answer, but the general questions we can address? Carl?
Michelle, if someone is preparing their own taxes, right, where do they find the place where they're going to actually apply for the AOTC, the American Opportunity Tax Credit?
So that's might be my next page, but we're going to go to that.
Okay, I didn't jump ahead.
That's okay, we'll just go right into that. So if you prepare your own return, a lot of times people will use the IRS website. They have like a free, you can use prepare your federal return. TurboTax H&R Block also has a free website. I think they even have an app, and they say free, and it's free federal, but they're charging you for the state. Okay, so it's not completely free, but in those types of situations when you're preparing your own return, typically there will be kind of two methods. One method is where the form shows up on your screen and you just populate it, right? So you have your W-2 in front of you, and box 1 is your wages, okay? You have your interest, and you can plot that number in, and you can just populate the form yourself. The other method for a lot of these websites is more like an interview process, right? So it will start out by asking you a lot of questions. And when it does, it's asking you these questions to prompt you for certain forms and certain credits to fill out. So it may say, it recognizes that you have a dependent child over the age of 19. It'll say, is that student in college? Okay. Are they in at least half-time? Look at the 1098, there's a little box that says whether they're enrolled half-time or not, okay? Yes, they are. What was their tuition? You'll answer that question. And as you start to answer those questions, the form that you have here for the American Opportunity Credit will start to populate, okay? So I always encourage, if you're going to prepare your own return and you're comfortable doing so, try to use the interview method, because those questions are there for a reason. They'll start to populate other forms and start, as you open up one question and you say, yes, I have a student that's in college, so you'll be answering a lot more questions. So that's how those forms will start to populate. Okay. Any other questions so far about the credit?
Well, I completed 4 years of school, and I'm continuing, so I wouldn't be eligible for this, correct?
No, not necessarily. If you've used this credit 4 times, then you can't use it anymore. But you could have already had a degree and just been going back to school for continuing another degree, pursuing another opportunity.
Yeah.
And if you haven't used the credit, you can start to utilize it now.
So if I did use it for 4 years, how about with the lifetime learning credit?
Then you can use other credits.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
This particular one, 4 times and you're done.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Any questions? Yeah. Ask away.
I already filed and already got my return.
Okay.
You said there was still an option to.
So if you heard something now that you're like, oh, great.
Right.
So there's an amended return. That's what amended returns are for. Things like that happen all the time. So it's a 1040X. Okay. So you file a 1040. If you find a mistake, you do a 1040X. And on the IRS's website, the very first page on the IRS website says forms and publications, right in the middle of the form. And you type in 1040X, it will come up as a PDF form, and it's usually like a pre-populated form where you can type into it, and then you can file it that way. So the first column is, what did you file, right? So you have that information. The second column is what changed, and then the third column is really just the math, right, to what it should be. And then hopefully in your case, it's more of a refund coming back.
Right.
Okay, so that's how you file that. And then there's just like an explanation at the bottom. Why are you filing amended return? I went to a program and
Right.
found out that I needed to file this, so easy to do. Anything else? Yes.
If I'm not, Michelle, just I'm sitting, listening, standing, listening, as trying to learn here as these students and potential students are. So, what's the simple, common sense litmus test that people should be walking around in their minds on these two programs? For example, on the first, if you've had a college expense, regardless of whether you have any earned income, on the first.
On the first one, so the American Opportunity Credit. I think the first thing is, if you're in school, your institution's going to issue a 1098T. That's your first clue. Hey, there's a credit out here. Whether it's American Opportunity, whether it's a lifetime learning credit, whether there's other tuition credits. So that's your first clue.
Whether
I got
you
this
had any
1098.
earnings.
I'm sorry?
Whether you had any earnings, whether you were working or not.
Whether you're working or not, it depends on whether you're depending on someone else's return as well. So, but that's your first clue. I have this 1098T, I should do something, right?
On the second, then, it's not so much whether you're in school, it's
No.
whether you earned income.
Correct. It's not, it has nothing to do with being in school, nothing to do really with me,
And on that one, I think Carl's told me it's both a federal, but then there's a state
there is a state
tax
level.
component as well.
There is. And you can also, without getting kind of too detailed about this credit, you can actually get the earned income tax credit given to you during the year in your paycheck. That would involve your employer and your W-2, but you can actually get that upfront as well. So that's also a component of the credit. The earned income tax credit can be very complicated. So I do encourage, if you think that you fall into that category and that you may be eligible for it, going to a preparer is probably the best way to go for that. Just to make sure that all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Okay.
And one last one, I promise.
Okay, ask away.
I'm gonna guess that most of these 400,000 students in community colleges, most would probably be those who would have very simple returns.
Yes.
They would either have no income or little income, and the income is probably on a W-2
Sure.
or whatever. And so I'm the father of 2 children, and they're going on, forgive me for good professionals like you, they're going on TurboTax, I think is the one I saw
Okay.
my son the other night, which is also free. So it's
A
not
simple
perfect,
return.
but you can poke around on those sites.
You certainly can. You certainly can. And a simple return exactly is that. And if you want a TurboTax or an HR Block website, it's fine. It really is. The one thing I have to caution students who are dependents of their parents is don't claim yourself as a dependent unless you've spoken to your parents first. Because that really does create, what would happen is parents would go to their preparer, they would prepare their return as they would every other year, claim the student as an exemption on their return, and then it would get rejected from the IRS, and the IRS would say, somebody else already used this social security number as a dependent. And that's when you have to look to your son or daughter and say, hey, you filed your tax return, you claimed yourself. So that's what I just would caution on that one. The last page of your handout, I just gave you kind of some helpful resources. There's an interactive tax assistant on the IRS website. So it's like Googling within the IRS website, so I feel safer about that. You can ask all different questions, there's different topics. So if you're not sure about earned income or the earned income tax credit, you can just put that in there and get a ton of information. There's also volunteer income tax preparation sites. So the closest one to here is at the Camden County Library in Voorhees. And I put their hours, they're through April 15th, and their hours are Thursday nights from 5 to 8 p.m. So I think there may be income thresholds for that. There's a phone number to call to see if, I don't think they even need appointments, but there's a phone number to call. So there's trained tax professionals trained by the IRS at these sites. Then it's called a VITA site, or VITA, Volunteer Income Tax Association. So they're very helpful as well, and they're trained on all these credits and things. Any other questions? You got me here around the office?
Carl, may we ask them some questions?
Ah, all right, there you go.
No, you
We'll turn it around on you.
Yeah, well, so, having heard this, what do you think? Is it like, it just sounds too complicated, thanks, but no thanks. Because again, we got 400,000 students out there that if this is real, and it is real, the question is, how real is it? You go first.
Could have been earlier.
Well,
We discussed that.
yes,
We did.
and it will be. We gotta start somewhere. We just met
Yeah.
6 months ago. It took us a while to find Michelle.
You're forgiven.
But you're right, January, February is a more timely time for this. But there's a ton of people who still didn't file their tax returns, so, but again, you always amend.
But how many of you are students now? Most. So you know yourselves, you know your fellow students. This year, April 15th is around the corner, we get that. But next year, what kinds of things do you think we ought to do to help students? We're talking about potentially several thousands of dollars that would go along, you've run the numbers, it would cover most of the tuition
If not
bill
everything.
at Cambridge County College. So, what advice do you have for us to get this word out? Is it, are we just kind of spinning our wheels here?
What made you
Anyway.
come tonight?
I'll offer in October, like a couple months before.
Before the end of the year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Volunteers also.
I mean, have volunteer preparation site? Yeah.
Michelle just said, what brought you here tonight?
I got the email.
And it piqued your interest at least enough to say, oh, let's go find out if
And
this
I
is
can't
real.
take credit for that creative writing about that was cool. I wouldn't, I'm an accountant, I'm not that creative at all.
What truth?
Yeah, please.
My mother actually saw it in the Camden County booklet that you sent out.
The flyer.
The flyer.
I know Jim did a lot of outreach.
I'm glad to see the parents with the students here as well, because like I said, a lot of times there is that situation where the students file and blame themselves, so the parents know about it.
So suggestions, I'm taking notes, start earlier, maybe have some volunteers at the campus, you're here. Communications blasts from the college about it, get the word out. What else?
I just wanted to let you know that I heard about it when I called the college and I was waiting to speak to someone, and it was on, there was like a, a whole thing that was just going round and round, and it was on that announcement there that I heard it, so that was very helpful.
Good.
You have planned with the earlier group and this one, are you gonna try to keep in touch with them if they follow up?
Yes, we would really love to stay in touch with you, and part of that is that we really do see this as a pilot project. So you're the vanguard, and you would be helping us help not only you, but also students students who aren't here today, right? These credits are available to you, and we want to help you just bridge that gap so that you can take advantage of these things. College affordability and college completion are huge issues, and they're personal issues for you. And don't let something like facing a tuition bill where, stand in your way of completing your dream. Right? These things are here to make that, to smooth the road out for you, if you will. And that's why these suggestions are so helpful, and having Michelle
They
as
were
a
very
kind of
helpful. I
reference.
mean, you're absolutely right, though, earlier I do agree myself.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, excuse me, I didn't mean to bring it back. I'm asking like on this point, like she said, if you receive a return already, like a tax return, what can you do next? Because
You file an amended return. I think it's really possible. There's no reason you should not take advantage of this. The law says that you're entitled to this, then therefore you don't want to just say, oh, I already filed, maybe I'll do it next year. This is money that you would be leaving on the table. This is still due to you, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, you can amend the return for this credit.
Do I go back to my taxpayer to do that, or can I do it myself?
You can do it yourself.
Because I did have an issue, I believe 3 years ago, somebody stole my identity. So now I have to wait for a PIN from the
Yes.
IRS and all that stuff.
And did you have someone prepare your
Yes.
return?
Gotcha.
As a courtesy to them, I would go back to your tax preparer, because they'll want, even if you don't, they're going to need to know that next year when they prepare your return, because they're going to need to know that you've already used the credit once, right? So best to really talk to them. If you're comfortable doing it yourself, at least give them the courtesy of a phone call.
thank you.
And Michelle, is there, if someone is preparing their own taxes, I found this myself, I'm not an accountant, and if I run into a roadblock, it can be very frustrating. If I'm not sure about something, there is a number some people can call just to help coach them through if they hit a rough spot in applying for this.
There was numbers, helpful information on here.
This is real time while you're preparing it?
I don't know if you're gonna, I sit on the phone with the IRS for a very long time waiting to get through, so I don't think that it's real time. My business cards are here, you can send me an email, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. I can't promise while you're preparing your return, but that's helpful. But like I said, if you find that you're uncomfortable doing a return, I would suggest trying to find someone to prepare it.
Even just the first time, and then once then you have it in paper, you can see how to do this. So, and we would like to stay in touch with you. We hope that you'll complete a survey for us when we send this to you electronically, and let us know what roadblocks you've hit or how smooth it's been. We'd like to hear the good news too. Please do that.
Is this as simple as I go to my tax preparer and say, you know, I'm a student, I want American Opportunity Credit?
It's that easy. You take your 1098-T in, they'll probably ask you a couple questions, and we'll do the rest.
And then, so just with the tax return, so it says up to $2,500 credit. Say you're spending $3,500 for the semester, you just get, you know, when you get your tax return
It comes back in your refund.
and your refund.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yes, it really is as simple as that, especially if you have someone prepare your return. Like I said, you just make sure they have that 1098-T. And if you're a traditional age student and you're, 22, 23 years old out of high school, we know to ask for these. If you're going back to school, we don't always know that. So that's definitely something that many tax preparers send out an organizer at the end of the year, and they're long and lengthy, but they're for a reason, because they ask you questions. Have you continued your education? If you were working full-time last year and you're working full-time this year, we may not know, you know, that you're still continuing your education. So make sure you just include that 1098-T with your information for your return.
Michelle, can you hear what you said earlier? You said, I didn't get it all. You said 2,500. You said part of it can be applied to your taxes, and part of it's
So the total amount,
refundable.
the total amount of the credit is $2,500. Okay, 40% of that, so $1,000 is refundable. Okay.
But he'll get that with his refund check.
So, right, so when we talk about a credit being refundable versus not, if your tax bill is say $5,000 and you wiped it out clean, you have nothing left, right? So you apply to credit and there's nothing left. A refundable credit will give you money back in addition to, so you didn't pay it in, but you're getting it back. You're getting more money back than you paid in.
A scholarship.
Exactly.
And this was designed to be an encouragement to get people to go to college, to go to school, and say that there is support for these things. Can I ask one other question too? I think this might be an important thing. You may have questions about combination of things. If you're getting some Pell Grant or some other financial aid, how do these things work in concert or not in
The
concert?
grants and the scholarships are adjusted on the 1098-T. So there is a spot for grants and for scholarships, so that's on the form. So the preparer will know when they get the form, how much tuition was billed, what your scholarship or grant money is. It's all on the form.
Okay. So in more lay language then, if someone actually has a Pell Grant that covers the maximum Pell Grant, they're most likely covering their tuition.
Correct.
And so would they still be eligible for?
This would cover other expenses. So we said books and supplies are covered.
Right.
This would be for that as well.
So books and supplies. So you still could potentially get $1,000.
You could.
You could with the
But I mean, books are not going to probably be the entire, I mean, I know they're expensive, but they probably won't cover the entire thing, but there's other supplies and other fees, I'm sure that everyone has.
Yeah, this is my first semester here, so they told me that I have a 1098-T. So when I told the person who was filing for me, he told me, things is that I'm gonna use it for next year. So does this require the 1098-T before you can be able to do that?
I'm sorry.
Because like this is the first semester I said, like the first semester,
Mhm.
so he told me I have to use the 1098-T for tax for next year.
For 2016, it depends on when you made your payments. I would still make sure you give them that 1098-T because
Yeah, he
if
said
this is
it's
your
that-
first, I would still probably use it. So
Yeah, he told
you just
me.
give it to them. Give a copy, keep a copy. So next year, that's what I would do, because I would still use it in the two, when did you start? In the January?
Just the other spring.
Oh, then if you started in January, yes, it's for 2016.
Okay. So
As
the
opposed to someone who
1098-T
went the
is
whole
not like a
year.
requirement for us to do this, right?
Oh, I'm sorry?
the 1098 is not one of the requirements for us to be able to open this,
Right, you don't have to have a 1098T for this particular credit because it does encompass other things besides just tuition, which is really the only thing that's on your 1098T. But yes, if you just started in 2016, your count is correct. It is for the 2016 calendar year.
The one that you can claim only 4 times, is that per student? Or is that per household?
Per student.
Okay.
Yes.
That was a good answer.
Yeah, so students that have multiple students in college, I mean, this can really add up and be, beneficial. Anything else? Well, have a great night in class, everyone.
Michelle, thank you so much.
Thank you.